All right, so as usual, make sure you say hi in the comments below so I can take attendance. Thank you. For the two of you watching right now, hello Renu. Hello Ray, hello Sherwin. I see 7 people are watching, but only 3 people have said hi. The rest of you, please come and say hi. Okay, hello Jian, hello Yasmin, hello Naomi, hello Clarence, hello Chin, hello Kunza, Sindru, Shireen. Okay, I think most of you are here already. And Shireen, as usual, let me know in the comments whether or not your sister is watching with you. Well, this is business studies, right? Naomi is here, okay. All right, we'll begin shortly. Let's see how much we can accomplish today. Give me a second, almost sorted. Okay, all right, so Shireen and Cheryl are separate. Okay, that's fine. All right, where did it go? Okay, today we're going to continue with our lesson on chapter 21, business, finance, needs, and sources. Thank you all for being on time. I apologize. Got a lot of emails to tend to. All right, so today we're going to pick up from where we left off when it comes to financing. Again, remember that financing is akin to the blood flow, right, of a business, okay, or lifeblood, okay, you need it to survive, okay. But before we dive into today's lesson, here's a little pop quiz. See if you guys can answer this. I don't know who's the one keeping track of the KitKat count here in this class, so I'm just going to appoint Renu. Renu, give me an update as to how many KitKats anyone has earned in this class. I think you got one, Renu, but I'm not sure. Okay, but this is your chance to earn a KitKat and potentially add to your KitKat count. Okay, first one to give the correct answer to this question gets a KitKat. Okay, ready? Here we go. All right, so here's the question. The coronavirus is said to originate from the Huanan wet market in Wuhan, China, where many traders and customers congregate. The virus has since spread around the world, infecting almost 2 million people, the overwhelming majority of whom were not involved in the business activities at the Huanan wet market. Which economic concept does this illustrate? I know it's not quite business studies, but it's very much related. Ray and Sinru, you are not allowed to answer this question because you already saw the answer from the level 2 class today. Okay, so again, which economic concept does this illustrate? I think it's a very good real life application to what we're studying in the textbooks. Alright, so again, like I said, Ray, sorry, you cannot answer this time. Because you already know the answer. All right, so Sherwin gets it. Okay, well done. All right, Sherwin, external costs. I mean, unless assuming that you were watching the level 2 class and just didn't comment. But anyways, no matter. Sherwin gets a Kit Kat. So Renu, go ahead and update the Kit Kat count in the comments. I don't know, who has gotten what so far, but I just know that today Sherwin has gotten 1 Kit Kat. Okay, all right, so I would have accepted either social costs or external costs, but the first correct answer I saw was Sherwin's external costs. Very good. Okay, so recall as a review, right? Economics. If let's say this, only the person selling that animal that was a carrier of the virus, bat, whatever, who knows, right? The person selling and the person who bought it and consumed it, right? If the virus was just contained to just these 2 people, then you consider it private costs, right? But as a result, now over 2 million people have been infected. But not just that, the fact that we are having this class online shows that this is part of the external cost to the coronavirus. Okay, the global economy is expected to lose anywhere between $5 to $9 trillion, $5 to $9 trillion in lost output between this year and next year. Okay, that's the external costs to the transaction between the person who was selling the infected animal and that wildlife and the person who consumed it. All right, and not just that, not just in monetary terms, but of course, many people's lives have been taken from them as well because of this coronavirus. So this is a very dramatic example, a very real example, and a very scary example of the textbook definition of external costs and social costs. Okay, so a good reminder there. Renu, still no update on the Kit Kat count. Okay, if that's the case, then everyone 0, Sherwin 1 today. Okay. All right, so let's come back to today's lesson. So chapter 21, business finance, needs and sources. So we left off with internal finance last week. So today we are gonna talk about external finance. Hold on, let me just bring this up. Okay. All right, so external finance. This is from pages 261 onwards. Just make sure you're turned open there. Okay, so internal meaning obviously you get the financing, that money flow from internal sources from within the company, right? Being the profits that you retain, or you can sell assets that the company already owns, or stuff that you've already produced and have kept in your inventory. All right, or the owner's savings. So that's internal. External means obviously from outside of the company. Okay, so the first one there, you've got issuing of shares. Okay, I just watched the movie on Facebook called The Social Network. I don't think it's appropriate viewing for you guys at such an age, I think, but it's an interesting movie about the rise of Facebook and the drama that came with the issuing of shares and how they actually went about dividing the ownership of the company. Okay, I know, fun stuff. Well, I found it very interesting, obviously, because it's something I use all the time, right? Facebook. Anyways, So this is one way companies can raise money. So they issue shares. What does it mean? So they can sell off a part of the company, ownership of the company, not assets that the company has. Yeah, it's the ownership of the actual company, right? So let's say I own 100% of Mr. Han's Barbers. Yes, because I run a string of barbershops and I'm an expert in cutting hair. Especially more so during this MCO when I've been cutting my own hair, or whatever's left of my hair. Anyways, so let's say I own 100% of Mr. Han's barbershop, and I decide to sell 10% of my company. Okay, and let's say Mr. Han's barbershops is worth 100,000 ringgit. Okay, so if I sell off 10% of my company that's worth 100,000 ringgit, so I can raise 10,000 ringgit by selling off 10% of my company, right? Then you can take the 10%, the 10% of that 10,000 ringgit to do whatever it is that you need to do, right? Using that money. Okay, so that's one way that you can raise money from outside. So the money obviously comes from external shareholders, people who are not already a part of your company, people who are not already owners of your company, right? That's how they can bring money. What is the exchange? They exchange their money for an ownership of your company. Okay, issue of shares. Yeah, so look at the pros and cons there. Okay, this is permanent. So once the money is given to you in exchange for the shares or in exchange for the ownership of the company, you don't have to pay back, or you don't have to pay interest at least. Okay, but the downside is sometimes, depending on the kind of company that you are, you have to pay what's called dividends. Okay, so in other words, because they have given you this money that you didn't have and you wanted that money, so in the future you might have to share a part of your profits. Okay, and it comes in the form of dividends. Okay, let's say Mr. Han's Barbers, every year I make a profit of say 50,000 ringgit. Wow, that's a lot, but let's say I just have a profit of 50,000 ringgit. I might have to give a share of my profits as dividends with my shareholders. Okay, so that's one of the disadvantages of issuing shares. Okay, maybe 50,000 is a bit high for a company that's worth 100,000. Maybe profit of say 5 to 10,000. Okay, so anyways, you have to share your profits with your shareholders. Okay, that's a downside. As opposed to, let's say, if Mr. Han, I kept all of the ownership of the company. I didn't issue any shares. I own all of it. Then guess what? All of the profit I get to keep. All right? I get to keep all the profit, but if I issue shares, then I probably have to share the profits with the other shareholders. Okay. Yeah, and then also there's a possibility of the ownership of the company being given away to someone else. Okay, when you start issuing shares. So let's say, okay, again, Mr. Han's company, I initially own 100%. But then I decided to issue shares with 51% of my company. Okay, so I sold off more than half, 51% of my company. Okay, then there's some really rich person out there really likes barbershops and really wants to have ownership of barbershops. Through the open market, this person could keep buying shares to the point where this person then owns 51% of Mr. Han's barbershop. Right, so then I no longer own the majority stake in my company. It's now owned by that other rich person. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that I lose control. And so if, let's say, I want to expand, or I want to make changes to the profit sharing or dividends, or I want to change the way I operate my business, guess what? I have less of a say compared to the majority shareholder, the person who owns 51%. Okay, so that's a risk when it comes to issuing shares. You got to know all this, yeah. Especially when you answer business studies papers that ask you to consider or discuss the advantages and disadvantages of some of these financing methods. Okay, so that's issuing of shares. Next, we got bank loans. Look, that's pretty straightforward. You just go to the bank, say, hey, I need some money. Lend me some money. Okay. Advantages that you can see in a textbook, page 262. They are usually quite quick to arrange, sometimes just a few weeks or months. I mean, some banks are not promising days, but those are usually smaller amounts lah. Okay, they can be varying lengths of time. So if you need it for just a few months to a few years to a few decades, like 20, 30 years, you can arrange that with the bank. Okay, and if you're a large company, or in other words, you've got a good ability to pay back your debt, then you might be charged a lower interest rate. In other words, your loan is cheaper, okay, not as expensive, okay, because the interest you're paying back to the bank is lower, okay. However, the disadvantage is then, well, you do have to pay an interest, right? And that security or collateral is needed. So, in other words, in order for the bank to loan you that money, let's say you want ₦1,000,000, well, guess what? You have to pledge ₦1,000,000 worth of assets to the bank. Okay, so in the event, in case you are not able to pay back your debt, like many businesses are doing so right now, they are unable to pay back the debt, then the bank can say, okay, look, you cannot pay back your debt, that's fine, you got this other asset, this asset is mine, okay, your collateral, okay, or security can be like a machine that you use, or cars, or the building, factory, your inventory, whatever, okay, so that can be collateral, okay. But then obviously now in the real world, because you've got many companies that cannot pay back their debts right now, but obviously banks and governments, they recognize that these are very, very unusual times. It's a shock to everyone, so they are forgiving that. So many loans, individuals and businesses don't have to pay back for now, okay, at least smaller businesses don't have to pay back for now. They're given 6 months, from April to September, whereby for these 6 months you don't have to pay back any of your installments. Installment means the monthly payments you have to make to the bank, okay. Because they recognize that these are crazy times. So as a result, banks for these 6 months, they cannot come after your assets, okay, or your collateral. So at least that's for Malaysia, okay. Then coming back to the list here, you've got then the company themselves can sell debentures, or they can issue debt, okay, same thing. So here's what it means, okay. So if let's say I'm the company, I'm running low on finances, or got no money, I need some money externally, right? So I can issue what's called a debt, okay. So it's just basically a contract, okay, or a piece of paper. Let's say it's this piece of paper, right? And on this contract, it says that, hey, you lend me ₦1,000,000, right? And maybe it's not just one person, many people, right? You lend me ringgit, and I will pay you back, say, 3%, okay? And this contract is valid for, say, 5 years, okay? So you give me the ringgit for, and depending, right, I might say in the contract, once a year or twice a year, or every month, I don't know, it just depends. Right? Every month I pay you back a certain amount, okay, and that amount is what I say just now, 3%, 3%, okay. I pay you back, and then at the end of your contract, when it matures, okay, say 5 years from now, I then give you back your ringgit, okay. So the idea is that for the business to, when they issue these debentures, this debt to these lenders, your debtors, you guys, I can then take the money, and then hopefully it'll help my business grow, then I can make more money than the ringgit plus the 3% that I'm paying back to you, okay. So that's the idea. And then the interest rate entices you as the investors whether or not it's worth lending the person the money, right? So you have to decide as an investor, should I give my ~1,000,000 to this company and then just be guaranteed guaranteed or be assured of 3% interest payments every year for 5 years? Or would I rather take the ringgit and go invest it somewhere else and maybe get 4, 5, 10% gain somewhere else, right? So these are the opportunity costs or the considerations that you have to take into account, okay? But that's one way businesses can raise money by issuing debt, okay, or selling debentures, okay. Now you guys see in your textbook there factoring of debts. So that's a bit technical, okay. So the idea is that this debt, okay, then gets sold off to another company that buys the debts, and then I can get immediate cash, you know. So it's a bit technical. Just read it. If you understand, great. If not, don't worry about it. I haven't really seen it too much in your IGCSE exams, okay. Yeah, okay. Then next one is grants and subsidies. Okay, so this is where, say like the government especially, they can issue grants or subsidies, basically give you money to help you do your business. So for example, let's say the government really wants to push companies towards 5G, okay, developing 5G technology. So what the government might do is say, okay, hey, here's R1 billion, go take it and develop 5G technology, okay. Or the government might say, you know what, we really want businesses to really develop electric cars, okay. So the government might give, you know, R1 billion, okay, take this grant or subsidy and go and you know, develop your cars, okay. And so that's a way of getting money from outside. Who is this person that's outside of the company? The government, okay. So for example, when Tesla first started, they also got a grant from the US government. Let me find out how much. Tesla grant from US government. It wasn't too much really. So CNBC 2018 story. Oh, it's a video. Dang it. Anyways, yeah, I just know Tesla got some money. There we go. So according to this, Tesla received, I know it's a bit small, $713 million in US subsidies. Okay, grant is them outright giving you the money. Okay, well, a subsidy is they might offset the cost, for example. So like right now, the Malaysian government has a subsidy program in place. So the government says, look, employers, we want you to keep your people on payroll, okay? Keep their jobs, keep giving them the salaries. Don't fire them, don't retrench them, because if you do that, then people lose their incomes and then the economy will suffer even more. So what the Malaysian government has done is, I think they give like a 600 ringgit subsidy. So they say, okay, employers, you keep paying your employees, then I will give you a subsidy of 600 ringgit to offset the cost for your wages and salaries that you pay your employees, okay? So that's an example of how governments can give financing to businesses, okay? So that's grants and subsidies. Microfinance, here's an interesting one. So it's usually small loans to usually people who cannot get bigger loans, right? Microfinance. So the most popular microfinancing scheme in the world, I just put it up there while I pull this up. Nope, wrong one. Microfinancing, which is like a model for the world, and the founder of this bank in Bangladesh actually got a Nobel Prize, Grameen Bank. Okay, so I'm going to try and I have actually interviewed the founder of this bank. Okay, it was a mind-blowing interview. Yeah, this guy. I don't know if you can see this right here. Okay. Yeah, Yunus. Okay. Do I have other pictures? Let me see. Just try and see Yunus. There we go. Okay. Yeah, Muhammad Yunus. Okay. I've actually interviewed this guy before. I can send you the link later as a radio interview. But yeah, very inspirational story. Obviously, if you use critical thinking, there are some criticisms aimed at the microfinancing model, right? But these micro means small, right? Microfinancing means you give small loans. I think they're giving like $20, $50, $100 loans to the poor in Bangladesh to help them start their own businesses, right? Or be it make and sell slippers, or buy and sell like snacks or vegetables, or whatever, right? So the idea is to help these entrepreneurs take these small loans and start up their businesses so that they can become financially sustainable. Apparently, they get like almost all their money back, 99% of their money back, apparently, according to Grameen Bank's models. But then the criticism is that, well, if microfinancing is so successful, why is Bangladesh still such a poor country, right? So it shows that there are limitations to this microfinancing model. But anyways, so the idea is this, okay? So you have a microfinancing, that's small loans usually provided to poor people or people who cannot access traditional means of financing, like bank loans, issuing debt. While you and I as individuals, we cannot issue debt. You got to be a big company before you can start issuing debt, or a sizable enough company to get grants and subsidies from the government, right? So alternatively, you can look at microfinancing. All right, guys, today I got to keep today's lesson short because I've got some pressing matters to attend to. So hopefully you understand this, and yeah, you can ask me any questions via WhatsApp. Next week we'll pick up from short-term, the differences between short-term and long-term finance, pages 264 onwards, or from page 264 onwards. Please read in advance, okay? I gotta go. I'll see you guys next time. Okay.